Xanderoy Strathrock takes us to a far-off land of music, magic, and adventure in the audiobook Songs from Dgatawa. He was going to get away. Upon encountering the first Modrans, Neka had felt as if she were in a dream. This was so surreal. But that Modran had taken her people's most sacred substance, the key to using the power of the green jam, and he was going to get away.
I'm going after him,
Neka called out as she surged out into the water and began to swim at a steady pace toward the lead Modran. We've made an arrangement that I think will be for the best. Colden's face was hard, but held a hint of mental bracing. You're going to have to board the raft. So that's how we're going to solve this problem? Nykus erupted. Just ship me off to die with the murderers? Please let me finish. It will only be temporary. Temporary? A temporary trip to oblivion? You know that there's no return. Yes, there is. There was anguish on Colden's face to even discuss these things with his oldest son. Soon the moons will bring jam power to the world. You'll need to go to one of the towers of Yagana in Ganchaba. Kenzius will be able to see you with the jam. He can find you and bring you back. Neka was frustrated now. I've been with Nykus for 2 days. I know him. He's a good person, not one of those other Modrans. Nykus is a Modran, and the others are Modrans. E.T. thinks Nykus knows who they are and where they took the water of Hetenmal. E.T. will do anything to get that information, including torturing Nykus. What are we going to do? Rishana didn't answer, but stood thinking. Neka said softly, but unwaveringly, I'm going to take Nykus out of here tonight. As Neka saw the outside world at the end of the corridor, she could see over 100 Gazavamshi out there. Rishana slowed her pace upon seeing so many Gazavamshi outside, but Neka still sprinted ahead at full speed.
Faster, trust me.
Neka shouted back at her. She saw that Disrar and his 2 guards were closing fast and roaring to get the attention of the Gazavamshi outside. Neka and Rishana burst out of the entrance of the mound structure into an area thick with Gazavamshi. She located a symbol on the green jam and pressed the symbol. Neka's heart leapt at what she saw and felt next. Leaves of the forest were blown in by a windy vortex opening just in front of her. Out of the vortex stepped a pack of creatures. Lissabri, large felines like saber-toothed tigers, about 6 feet tall and 15 feet head to tail. Rishana and her would-be attackers were all awestruck at the sight. Do you remember looking down on me? Now what I do, and you cannot compete. Grabbed the jam, zooming her vision in on the first slaveholder island. At the break of dawn, Anishkaran whipped a lagging slave out of the cold building and out into the sugarcane field. I'm gonna free your slave today. And when you look up and
and see me, you're gonna be amazed.
They packed the ships and set their oars for Juanaka, the first slave-holding island in the eastern chain. Nneka, eyes closed, voice tightening, and hand shaking, finally pressed the symbol on her jam. An enormous ripple upset the coastal waters of Juanaka Bay, a dark shape beneath it. With a resounding roar of water and colossal throat, the jade-scale Sarakagon broke the surface. Creature went through and decimated the island's defenses. Soon, the island was swarming with Ganshapans. Slaves left their chores and ran into the midst of the troops, embracing them and jumping up and down for joy. Rashana pounded the limb with her fist. You could have had all the jams and killed that monster, and you didn't? Nneka wouldn't look at her. She just stared down through the many layers of branches and leaves toward the unseen earth. Nneka, you heard what the swamp man said about the Modrons using their jams to fight each other. The Modrons might not have any power left to fight him. Desrar has 2 jams and you only have 1. How do you expect to stop him? What about the rest of the world? The king took out the white jam and held it in front of him, saying, I have no more spells to cast. None of the plans we've discussed stand a chance against this enemy. The mood in the room sunk to a dark despair, the depth of which had not been seen in ages. Colden stood up. I don't agree that surrender is the appropriate action right now. And you want us to give them food. Ken, these creatures eat people. You should hide until the white jam builds up more spells, then come back and give Desrar one last battle he'll never forget. There were nods and voices of approval from around the table. As always, your words are wise, Kenzius said. But while you mentioned surrender, I mentioned no such thing. Colden blinked. Kenzius smiled as he continued. Colden, your son will hold the key to that final battle. Nykus? Desrar pressed a symbol on the blue jam, and a violent cloudy wind swirled in front of him. Out of the windy vortex appeared a cloud of flying insects. Each insect had a roughly 8-inch wingspan, purple-blue in color, and a large dangling stinger. They swarmed, churning for a second before swirling as one and heading towards Nykus. Nykus turned to Gian. I forgot what they're called, but I know they're not friendly. Gian responded. True statement, Nykus. It's a swarm of wasps. They're extremely poisonous. They'll kill Viver, and they'll kill you. Nykus took a deep breath and exhaled. So, this is it. Gian nodded. You've got one shot. Desrar needs to be dead, or his blue jam taken away before that swarm gets here. Nykus was already atop Viver and diving down the side of the cliff as Gian finished his sentence. Nykus flew behind the boulder and trees that hid Nneka and Rashana. Rashana peered through the bushes behind the huge boulder. The insects are halfway here. Let's go! Nykus pulled the green jam out of his pocket and handed it to Nneka.